This is the new RockShox Reverb AXS dropper post. It features up to a whopping 250mm of travel, and thanks to its simplified air-only internals, it is now much easier to service at home. More importantly, it also helps to make the new Reverb over 30% cheaper than the old version. So what's the catch? The RockShox Reverb AXS is a premium wireless electronic dropper post that's available with 100 to 250mm of travel. It features an entirely new construction with the battery module now located down at the seat collar, which provides more clearance between the rear tyre and the saddle at full compression. Inside is an air-only system that ditches the hydraulics used in the previous Reverb. This eliminates the chance of aeration, and it also makes it much easier to service. RockShox says a basic service will take around 15 minutes to perform, which is recommended for every 300 hours of ride time. In terms of its action, the post is rock solid at full height, which is achieved by cutting off the negative air chamber. As soon as you hit the remote, a valve opens up the negative chamber as the post begins to move. This engages what RockShox calls active ride, which gives you a bit of inbuilt suspension whenever the post is set partway through its travel. This feature is already used on the Explore version of the Reverb, and indeed we think it'll be more useful for hardtail and gravel riders more so than full suspension users. Price on the new RockShox Reverb AXS is $945 Australian for the post on its own. It's compatible with SRAM's 2-button pod controllers, though we prefer pairing it with the specific Reverb controller, which sells for $125. Now, to put the price into perspective, the new Reverb is $400 cheaper than the old version and around $500 cheaper than the Fox Transfer Neo. While the price has come down, we were surprised to see the weight stay much the same. Confirmed weight for our 31.6 by 175mm travel dropper post is 707 grams, so it's still on the heavier side compared to some cable-activated droppers on the market. Of course, the Reverb is way easier to install thanks to its wireless design. You'll need to pair your remote to the post and fit your saddle using the new twin-bolt clamp, but that's kind of it. Now, on the note of fitment, unfortunately the travel isn't adjustable with the new Reverb. What you buy is what you get, so it's worth paying close attention to all of the dimensions to make sure you get the right size for your bike. In use, the new Reverb does have some functional differences compared to the old version. It's not quite as fast to respond due to the way that the valve opens up the air chambers, and it requires a bit more force to compress. We expect this is due to the high pressure air spring, which on our test post is set to 600 psi. Compare that to 250 psi in the old dropper. You can lower the internal pressure down to 400 psi, though we're still waiting to get our hands on a specific shock pump to try that out. We're also pleased with how solid the new Reverb feels, with zero rotational play to speak of. We are less convinced by the active ride function, which does feel a bit wasted on a long travel bike. It also adds some lag when you're making adjustments to your saddle height, as the post continues to compress a bit even after you've let go of the remote. It does take some getting used to, though after the first ride we haven't really thought that much about it. Indeed, the Reverb overall has faded away into the background, performing its job as intended with minimal fuss. Now, the question that many of you may be asking is, should I upgrade from my old Reverb? If you're happy with your current amount of travel, then I don't think there's any real need. If you wouldn't mind going longer though, the new Reverb is a fantastic option. The simplified internals make it easier to service at home, and it should offer improved long-term reliability. And while the action isn't quite as light as its predecessor, we have been impressed with how solid it feels so far. We're also stoked to see the price come down by such a significant margin, and that's perhaps the biggest story here. Now, if you've got any questions for us about the new Reverb, make sure you drop those into the comments below. Otherwise, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and we'll see you in the next one. Tooroo!